This silver three-sided trophy is symbolic of one of the toughest accomplishments in sports. Any sport. All sports. This is the trophy presented for a sweep of the 3 American classic thoroughbred races known as the Triple Crown. It begins on the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, when the 3-year-olds run for the roses, the Kentucky Derby at 1.25 miles. 2 weeks later, it's on to Old Hilltop, Pimlico Racecourse in Baltimore, Maryland, the Preakness at 1 3/16, the run for the Black-Eyed Susans. Its trophy, the Woodlawn Vase, is the most valuable in American sports. And then 3 weeks later, the show moves just off Broadway for the test of the champion, the grueling 1.5 miles of the Belmont Stakes. During 5 weeks in the spring, 3 races, 3 tracks, 3 different distances. 3-year-old thoroughbreds trying to make history in the Triple Crown Challenge. Sir Barton in 1919 became the first to wear the crown, before it was even known as the Triple Crown. In the decade of the 1930s, there were 3 Triple Crown winners, including Gallant Fox, 1930, Omaha, 1935, and War Admiral, 1937. The following decade saw 4 wear the crown. Whirlaway, 1941. In 1943, it was Count Fleet. Assault in 1946. And in 1948, the Great Citation. But for 25 years after Citation's sweep, no one would claim the Triple Crown trophy. That would change in 1973 with a horse who would become a racing legend, Secretariat. Citation, the colt from Calumet Farm, swept the Triple Crown. At the time, it didn't have much impact in the world of sports. After all, it was the 4th time in that decade of the 1940s that a thoroughbred had done it. As Citation completed his sweep that year, no one could have imagined it would take a quarter of a century before another Triple Crown trophy would be presented. It was 1973, and America needed a hero. Any kind of hero. It was the time of the Vietnam War. And of civil unrest in America. It was the perfect time for a hero to arrive, and it did in the form of a thoroughbred named Secretariat. He was a big, red-colored chestnut with a star on his head and 3 white stockings. He wore the blue and white block silks of Penny Chenery's Meadow Stable. Here he was, a red, white, and blue hero for America. He was so good as a 2-year-old, winning races at 5 different tracks, that he was named Horse of the Year. Before he even started racing at 3, he was syndicated as a stallion prospect for just over $6 million. He started off his 3-year-old campaign with easy victories in the Bayshore and Gotham. But when Secretariat was upset in the Wood Memorial, the final prep for the Kentucky Derby, the pressure was really on.
The Wood was tougher competition and also a longer distance, so it was one more hurdle to overcome, but it certainly wasn't one that I expected to stumble over. And when we stumbled, it was just despair. What could have gone wrong, and just a lot of worry.
The first Saturday in May, 1973. And Secretariat's fans didn't seem worried as they made him the 3-2 favorite. But still, there were doubts. The Secretariat walked quietly in the post position number 10 and then ran into Derby history.
And they're off. Secretariat is 4th and moving up on the outside and is now 3rd and moving at the leaders as they come for the head of the stretch. They're at the head of the stretch and Cham is the leader. He leads it by a length. Secretariat is in the center of the racetrack and driving. Checky Green now drops back. Coming on a bit is Forgo, our native on the outside. Now and then the stretch. It's Secretariat. Secretariat on the outside to take the lead. Cham holding in second. It's Secretariat moving away. He has it by 2.5. Cham then on the outside, our native. At the wire, it's going to be Secretariat. He wins it by 2 lengths.
Secretariat had done it. The fastest Kentucky Derby in history, and the first 1.25 miles ever run at Churchill Downs under 2 minutes, 1:59.2. But the big horse seemed less interested in roses than he was in getting on to Maryland. for the second jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness. At the Preakness, Secretariat seemed to have his mind made up when he left the starting gate on how he was going to run this race. It surprised everyone, including owner Penny Chenery.
As they came past the stands the first time, he was with horses. He wasn't way back. And suddenly he made a leap forward all on his own, as if, hey, I'm ready to go. And he just took off. And Ronnie hadn't asked him. It was not when we planned that he was going to move. He just decided to do it. And that just, I thought, okay, we've got this one.
But here comes Secretariat. He's moving fast, and he's going to the outside. He's going for the lead, and it's right now he's looking for it. Head of the stretch, Secretariat, 2.5. Sham under a strong left-handed whip, and he's making his run now, but it's still Secretariat holding on. Secretariat by 2 lengths. Sham driving second. There's a strong left-handed whip again by Pincay. He goes to it time and time again, but Ronnie Turcotte has his whip put away, and Secretariat has him put away. He's beginning to draw away. It is Secretariat. He's coming to the wire. He wins it by 2.5, almost 3.
Secretariat accepted the victory blanket of black-eyed Susans for the Preakness much better than he handled the Roses at the Derby. But even as the Woodlawn Vase was being presented, there was another trophy on everyone's mind, the Triple Crown. In the 3 weeks between the Preakness and Belmont of 1973, Secretariat transcended sports. He became a national phenomenon. In the same week, he appeared on the covers of Sports Illustrated, Time, and Newsweek. It had been a quarter of a century since thoroughbred racing had a Triple Crown winner, not since Citation in 1948. In that space of 25 years, 7 3-year-olds had a chance at immortality. They were all stopped by the test of the champion, the 1.5-mile Belmont. For Secretariat's owner, Penny Chenery, the build-up to the race was almost too much to bear.
It just was every day, one more day until race day. I had no idea whether or not he could do it, but I knew that he would be as fit as Lucian could possibly make him, and that he had grown intellectually, and he was mentally much more professional an athlete than he had been earlier, say, in the Wood. And so I felt that everything was right for it, but we had still to do it.
The confidence of Secretariat's jockey Ron Turcotte and trainer Lucian Lauren never wavered.
This is Sir Lauren. This is, if this horse don't win the Belmont, I'm going to hang up my tag. That's how confident I was in the horse. And Mr. Lauren turned around and says to me, he said, Ronnie, he says, he's the greatest horse that I ever looked to a bridle. And if he don't win, he says, I'm going to hang up my book. He said, I'm going to quit training too. That's how confident we were both.
June 9th, 1973. Race day had finally arrived. But would it be a coronation for Secretariat? Or would all those who doubted that this son of Bull Ruler could go the distance be right? And then there was the dream.
The morning of the race, Mr. Lauren came to the barn and he says, Ronnie, he says, I had a terrible dream. I said, what kind of dream do you have? He says, I had a dream you fell off leaving the gate. I says, oh my God. And he says, the last 2 Triple Crown winners had stumbled leaving the gate. And I guess that's what he was thinking all the time.
Everybody's in line, and they're off. Looks like the early lead goes to My Gallant. Yes, My Gallant going for the lead with Price of Prince on the outside. Secretariat away very well, has good position on the rail, and in fact is now going up with the leaders. They're moving for the first turn. It is Secretariat. Sham on the outside is also moving along strongly, and now it's Sham. Sham and Secretariat are right together into the first turn. My Gallant has third behind them. Then it's Twice a Prince, and the trailer is Private Smiles as they go by the turn. Those two together, Sham on the outside. Sham getting ahead in front as they move around the turn with Secretariat second. Then there's a large gap. Make it 8 lengths back to My Gallant in third and Twice a Prince fourth. And Private Smiles is still the trailer. They're on the backstretch. It's almost a match race now. Secretariat's on the inside, by ahead. Sham is on the outside. They've opened 10 lengths on My Gallant, who is third by ahead, with Twice a Prince fourth. Then it's another 8 lengths back to Private Smiles, who is trailing the field. They continue down the backstretch, and that's Secretariat now taking the lead. He's got it by about 1.5 lengths. Still Sham, 10 lengths back. My Gallant, Twice a Prince. They're moving on the turn now. for the turn at Secretariat. It looks like he's opening. The lead is increasing. Make it 3.5. He's moving into the turn. Secretariat holding on to a large lead. Jan is second, and then it's a long way back to My Gallon and Twice a Prince. They're on the turn. Its Secretariat is blazing along. The first 3/4 of a mile in 1:09 4/5. Secretariat is widening now. He is moving like a tremendous machine. Secretariat by 12. Secretariat by 14 lengths on the turn. Sham is dropping back. It looks like they'll catch him today as My Gallon and Twice a Prince are both coming up to him now. But Secretariat is all alone. He's out there almost a 1/16 of a mile away from the rest of the horses. Secretariat is in a position that is impossible to catch. He's into the stretch. Secretariat leads his field by 18 lengths. And now Twice a Prince is taken second, and My Gallon has moved back to third. They're in the stretch. Secretariat has opened a 22-length lead. He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat to the wire. An unbelievable, an amazing performance.
Secretariat by 31 lengths. Secretariat in a world record 2:24 for the 1.5 miles. The sport's first Triple Crown winner in a 1/4 century. The joy and the relief were both evident in Penny Chenery's celebration just after the race. And what was she thinking as she watched her Secretariat make Triple Crown history?
Lucian and I were side by side, and suddenly Lucian said, "Oh my God, Ronnie, just don't fall off. Don't fall off. Don't fall off." That's all he was saying. Everybody was cheering for the horse, but we were just cheering for him not to stumble or nothing to go wrong. And I only watched my own horse in a race. I wasn't aware quite how far he was in front of the others.
And another bit of Triple Crown history was made that year as Governor Nelson Rockefeller presented the first Triple Crown trophy to Penny Chenery. Before 1973, there had been no trophy for the Triple Crown. Secretariat, a red, white, and blue hero, just when America needed him. Secretariat not only made the Triple Crown look possible again after a 1/4 century, he made it look easy. 2 others would follow him into racing immortality before the decade of the 1970s ended. In 1977, it was a big, dark bay, almost black colt named Seattle Slew. Unlike Secretariat, who was born to royalty by Bold Ruler and out of the Prince Quelomere Something Royal, there was nothing royal about Seattle Slew. In fact, he ranks as one of the all-time great bargains in horse racing history. Purchased for just $17,500 at a 1975 Kentucky yearling sale. Lumberman Mickey Taylor and his wife Karen bought Seattle Slew on the advice of veterinarian Jim Hill.
Well, it was in a rainy afternoon at Fastig-Tipton, and I mean very, very rainy. Karen and I kind of made up our mind. We were going to buy around 10 horses. We were going to average like around 15,000. I picked up the bid on him at 15, and we were only going to go to 12.5, so I was already over our limit. Karen's my limit. And somebody else picked him up at 15.5, and then I picked him back up at 16. When I said pick him back up, I made the bid. And somebody bid 16.5, and maybe it was the same person bid 15.5, and then he went to 17. And I got one elbow. I got the first elbow at 16. At 15. But when it went to 17.5, I got the 2 elbows.
This horse was an athlete, and you could tell it from the time he walked out of the stall. He was just a magnificent-looking individual with a lot of presence, and you just knew he had to be a racehorse.
Seattle Slew was turned over to a young trainer in his mid-30s, a tall, thin Irishman named Billy Turner. So how did this former steeplechase jockey and relative newcomer to the profession wind up with Seattle Slew?
Well, it was through a mutual connection. Jim Hill, my veterinarian in New York, helped the Taylors buy some horses, and through that connection, he introduced me to them.
The other part of the team that would come to be known as the Slew crew was jockey Jean Cruguet. The French native, just starting his career in the States, remembers his first meeting with Seattle Slew.
And up with the sometime in June. I went to the gate, 148, but, you know, just nothing to talk about. Because sometime when I come back and put the horse, good horse, I come back and tell my wife, I put a good horse. But I didn't even mention it to my wife, because he was just, to me, it was just a horse.
Even though Seattle Slew did not start his race career until September of his 2-year-old year, it didn't take long to realize that there was something very special about this bargain colt.
I thought that he had the ability to beat anything that was running as a 2-year-old, and if nothing new came along, I thought that he could beat anything if you took care of him.
And that's just what Slew did. He was the 2-year-old champion. He arrived at Churchill Downs for the 1977 Kentucky Derby with a perfect 6-for-6 record. At the start of that 103rd Kentucky Derby, Mickey Taylor thought it was the end for Seattle Slew, the 1-2 favorite.
The gate opened, and I could see Slew come out to the right. And then there was no yellow and black silks. I mean, he was gone. Then I remember another elbow. Karen saying, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?"
It's Seattle Slew, however, that takes it over at the head of the stretch. Seattle Slew moving away, now opens 2.5. Run Dusty Run driving up on the outside into second. Steve's friend, here's Sanhedrin now closing also along the inside. Coming to the wire, Seattle Slew opens it to 4 lengths. At the finish, it's going to be Seattle Slew, and he's going along easily. He wins it by about 2 lengths.
As the roses went on Seattle Slew in the Derby winner's circle, the doubts many had about how genuine his perfect record really was quickly faded. The second jewel, the Preakness, was even easier. Slew was in control the entire race, could have won by an even greater margin, but his rider, Jean Cruguet, was looking ahead.
It was a piece of cake, and the Belmont, like I say, I was worried about a 1.5 because he was not a 1.5 horse. He surprised me like as a 4-year-old, he was kind of probably a better horse, and he went 1.5 here on a Gold Cup because the track was sloppy, that kind of carry him, but he was a true mad horse, you know.
Now it was on to Belmont Park, where Seattle Slew would have a chance to make Triple Crown history, to win the crown undefeated.
In the stretch, here he comes, and he's opening it up again. It's Seattle Slew, and he's drawing clear of the field. Seattle Slew has 4 lengths on Run Dusty Run. It's Run Dusty Run in second and Sanhedrin third. They're nearing the finish line. It's still Seattle Slew, and he's opened it out to 4.5. Then Run Dusty Run and Sanhedrin.
The $17,500 bargain yearling had won the 10th Triple Crown, and he was the first to win it undefeated with 9 consecutive victories. Seattle Slew was syndicated after his racing career as a stallion for a then record $12 million. He would become one of the most influential sires of the final quarter of the 20th century. It will for all time in the sport of kings be known simply as the rivalry. Affirmed versus Aladar. Affirmed became racing's 11th Triple Crown winner. And none of the previous winners ever had to battle harder against one rival than he did against Aladar. Affirmed's combined margins of victory in the 3 races was less than 2 lengths, about 16 feet in almost 4 miles of racing. The fans had had a preview of the 1978 Triple Crown rivalry the year before in the Laurel Futurity. Affirmed on the outside edged Aladar by a neck. In their 2-year-old year, Affirmed won 4 of their 6 races. They would not meet again until the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs for the 104th Kentucky Derby. Affirmed, the 1977 2-year-old champion, had gone west with trainer Las Barrera and won all 4 of his prep races at Santa Anita and Hollywood Park. Meanwhile, Aladar was a perfect 3-for-3 in Florida, including romping victories in the Flamingo and Florida Derby. Aladar carried the famed devil red and blue silks of an American racing institution, Calumet Farm, owned by Admiral and Mrs. Jean Markey. The colt, trained by young John Veach, is ridden by future Hall of Famer George Velasquez. Affirmed raced in the flamingo pink and black colors of his Florida owners and breeders, Lou and Patrice Wolfson's Harbor View Farm. the trainer, veteran Hall of Famer Laz Barrera, and the jockey Steve Coffin, native of Kentucky, and known in the racing world as the Kid. Coffin was just barely 18, and many wondered how he would handle the pressure of his first Kentucky Derby.
To be quite honest, really, I really didn't feel much pressure before the Derby. You know, I'd ridden in a lot of big races. I'd, you know, had a lot of success, and I was probably too young to even know, you know, worry about. I was at the fearless age where nothing bothered me.
Affirmed toward the rail and down the stretch they come. Affirmed on the inside, takes command again. Believe it is second. Aladar gains ground third. They're in the final furlong. It's Affirmed with Stevie Coffin showing the way by 2.5. Believe it with Ed Mapley's next on the outside. Aladar is third, but it's going to be Affirmed. Affirmed with Steve Coffin is going to win this 104th running of the Kentucky Derby. Aladar is second.
The Preakness, we was in the same situation. It was 2-3 horses with little speed, and I said to Goddard, stay outside and close to the speed, wait for Alidar back again. We don't have to worry about any other horse. If we got beat with some other horse, it's too bad. But the only horse we have to beat is Alidar. You watch it for him.
They're into the stretch. 3/16 of a mile to go. Affirmed holds that lead. Alidar up on the outside to join the leaders. They come on down to the 8th pole. It's Alidar on the outside. Affirmed along the rail. Inside the 8th pole, it's Affirmed holding a slight lead. Alidar's charging at him. Coming on to the 16th pole, it's Affirmed. Alidar on the outside. They come on down to the finish. Affirmed and Alidar. Here's the finish.
Affirmed on the rail wins the Preakness by a neck over Aladar. But the best was yet to come. The Belmont Stakes is known as the test of the champion because of its mile-and-a-half distance and its position as the final leg of the American Triple Crown Series for 3-year-old thoroughbreds. Trainer John Veach thought it was the race that Aladar would win.
Yes, I did. I thought, first of all, I thought the race was the right distance for him. He loved Belmont Park. He'd beaten Affirmed in the Champagne at Belmont the last time they had met. I thought that we had him every step of the way. We laid closer to him. We did battle with him from the mile pole on. I thought I had the stronger horse. We got in front of him and headed him at the 16th pole, and he came back at us, and then we came back at him, and it was just one jump, one way or the other, I thought, at the end.
And they're off. That's Affirmed going out for the lead. Then Judge Advocate Alidar is away well on the inside. They're moving into the turn. Affirmed holding ahead in front, and Alidar on the outside is challenging again. It's Affirmed by ahead on the turn. Alidar is second by 4.5. Along the inside, Judge Advocate, Noontime Spender, and Darby Creek Road now beginning to pick up the pace. 3/4 went in 14, a mile in 37 and 2. The pace is increasing as they come to the head of the stretch. It is still Affirmed as they come to the quarter pole. He's holding on to a head lead. Alidar is outside of him and challenging that lead. The two are heads apart, and Alidar's got a lead. Alidar put ahead in front, right in the middle of the stretch. It's Alidar and Affirmed battling back along the inside. We'll test these two to the wire. Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alidar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alidar heads apart. Affirmed's got a nose in front as they come on to the wire.
He just said, come on. You were doing all the
I did the rooting, yeah.
And I want to tell you, she rooted him right in.
Yeah, it's your legs shake. You can't hold the binoculars, you know. And he just reaches in for more. And it was a great performance.
It was a situation where I knew, you know, Affirmed and Alidar, they were both probably tired of Alidar, but underneath me I could feel that Affirmed was, you know, he was starting to fall, you know, he was giving what he had, but he was faltering a little, and we needed to find something extra, and also Georgie, being the, you know, tactical jockey that he was, you know, laying right on top of me, so I couldn't use my right-handed stick so easily. And that was when I pulled my, you know, whip through and hit him left-handed for the first time ever. And, you know, did really get a, you know, resounding response. I mean, he did, at that point, like, sort of, jumped and got his head back in front. And, you know, just the natural, courageous horse he was, he battled it out to the wire. And it doesn't get any better than that. I've ridden in a lot of races around the world, and that's still to this day the most exciting and probably the best race that I think I ever have ridden in.
Affirmed had become the 11th Triple Crown winner, and he did it the old-fashioned way. He earned it. And Aladar was always right there to make sure he did.
I think these two horses did more for racing than anybody in the world. Was so much and people following the horses, and every race was a part of nose and neck.
The 10 races in 2 years between racing's two greatest rivals covered 10 and 5/16 miles. Affirm's total margin of victory over Aladar was just 4.5 lengths, or about 38 feet. The decade of the 1970s had produced 3 Triple Crown winners. Secretariat, 1973. Seattle Slew, 1977. And 1978, Affirmed. There had never been a three-peat, though, in the Triple Crown. But in 1979, the big gray colt had a chance to change that. His name was Spectacular Bid. The son of Bold Bidder, out of the mare Spectacular, was purchased for just $37,000 for the Hawksworth Farm of Maryland. Harry, Teresa, and Tom Meyerhoff.
Tom and I had picked out the pedigree, and he was by Bold Bidder, and we had a filly previously called Bold Place, who was by Bold Bidder, so we were interested in all Bold Bidders, and we liked his pedigree.
Spectacular Bid was turned over to their trainer, Grover Greer Buddy Delp. It didn't take him long to realize he had his horse of a lifetime.
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, I've had an awful lot of real nice Saturday afternoon horses, but, I mean, Bid, I mean, it's hard to describe it. I didn't realize that there was a horse like that. I watched the Derby the year before. I think it was Affirmed and Aladar in my living room. And I said, I wonder what it would feel like to have a horse like that. And you know, the next year I got one.
Spectacular Bid rolled to the Kentucky Derby on a 10-race win streak with devastating victories in the Florida Derby, Flamingo Stakes, and the Bluegrass. The Bid's jockey was 19-year-old Ronnie Franklin. Delp, despite being very critical of some of Franklin's rides, stuck with the young man he had befriended. At Churchill Downs on Derby Day, Delp was so confident Spectacular Bid would win, he let everybody know it.
You know, I just hollered, go bad, you know, go bad. He was 3 to 5. I said, what were they going to make? You know, they weren't going to hurt me. Betting. So, yeah, I did that.
And down the stretch they come, and it's Spectacular Bid taking the lead by a length and a half. Along the inside, General Assembly is second. Flying Pastry drops back on the outside, Golden Act coming on. But there's a 16th of a mile to go, and Spectacular Bid is going to win the 105th running of the Kentucky Derby. Spectacular Bid does it, Ron Franklin aboard.
Everybody believed Delp at the Preakness. Spectacular Bid went off at 1-10, winning by 5.5 lengths, and was just to tick off the Pimlico track record. The Bid was now poised to take the crown. No thoroughbred could stop him, but a safety pin was about to play a key role in one of the biggest upsets in racing history.
1 in a million. I blew him out the day before the race. R.A. Smith blew him out the day before the race, and he went 35 and a couple just galloping. And we were sitting in front of his stall, Bid's stall, on bales of hay and talking. He said, well, it's all over now. All we have to do is lead him to the paddock, and the Triple Crown's ours. Came the next morning at dark, and Herman Hall, my groom, said, hey, boss, this horse is lame. I said, what? Take me to him. So he was standing there like this, with 1 foot up in the air. So I went in the stall real quick and looked at it, and there was a safety pin right there. It was embedded about, maybe close to 1/2 inch into the lamini, not the frog, in the hardest, toughest part of that hoof. And then I called Harry, and I told him exactly what happened. I said, I'm not going to mask anything. I'm not going to give him anything, just going to pack his feet. And if he's anything but sound, he's going to have to scratch.
Spectacular Bid raced, but it wasn't the same Bid. And it was more than just a safety pin.
Two reasons. He would have won even with he didn't change lead the whole running of the Belmont Stakes. Ronnie chased 101 shots the first half a mile, went by him. He rode him bad. Now, had he ridden him with the confidence he rode him in the Derby, or say the Preakness, he would have still won the race because he wouldn't have chased that real heavy long shot early. I told him about the pin. I think it made him very nervous, and he was in a hurry.
Spectacular Bid finished third behind Coastal and Golden Act, 3.5 lengths short of the Triple Crown. But owner Harry Meyerhoff never had a doubt that the Bid was the best horse that day.
None whatsoever. I think he would have won the Triple Crown easily.
There has never been a more New York trainer than Johnny Campo. In the spring of 1981, he also told everybody he was racing's best trainer, period. And he set out to prove that in the Kentucky Derby with Pleasant Colony, a colt bred in Virginia by his owner, Thomas Mellon Evans. Campo didn't even take over the colt until March 16th, but in the Wood Memorial, he started backing up his talk. After losing his last 5 races, including a 13-length beating in the Florida Derby, Pleasant Colony pulled off a 3-length win in the Wood Memorial. At Churchill Downs, Campo let everyone know he had the best horse, and he knew why.
Well, you had to be confident in him. A lot of it was ego. A lot of it was time. And he was sound as horse the whole race. Whether you believe it or not, every horse had problems in it. Every horse.
They're at the post. And they're off. Gaining ground on the outside, Pleasant Colony. They're moving down the stretch, Partey. Now Pleasant Colony on the outside takes the lead. Partey holds the second in the center of the track past the cab. Television studio is moving up. Down along the inside, Splendid Spruce. Nearing the finish, it's Pleasant Colony drawing away with the lead. Woodchopper gains ground second.
It was the first Derby win for Campo, as well as jockey George Velasquez and owner Thomas Mellon Evans' Buckland Farm. After the race, Campo wasn't shy on the winner's stand talking to ABC's Jim McKay.
Well, I kept telling everybody this horse was going to win, but everybody thinks I'm nuts. You know, but I told Mr. Evans, if we didn't win the Wood, there ain't no sense of coming. And if we didn't win this, no sense of going to Preakness. Pity them poor guys in the Preakness. We had some fun today, and we went easy.
What made you so certain before the Wood? You say, make your bets and go to sleep on it. It's all right. We're going to win. You said the same thing on Thursday here.
I'm a good horse trainer, pal. Don't ever forget it.
Johnny proved it again in the Preakness when people finally listened to him and made Pleasant Colony the favorite for the first time in his career.
Well, he ran good in the Preakness, and he won that. And he was third in the Belmont. I didn't think he really can go a mile and a half. I really didn't think he could go a mile and a half. And he was worn down. He won 3 good races, and he was worn out.
And Johnny Campo himself seems a bit worn out now. The roar is gone. But back in the spring of 1981, he made people listen and believe. And he almost won racing's Triple Crown. In the decade of the 1980s, there would be 2 more chances for a Triple Crown winner. 1987, it was this colt named Ali Sheba, the son of Aladar, a $500,000 Keeneland yearling purchase by the Scarborough family of Texas. Trained by Jack Van Berg and ridden by Chris McCarron, both racing Hall of Famers, Ali Sheba had won only 1 race and was disqualified from another victory coming to the Kentucky Derby. In the race, Ali Sheba made one of the most remarkable recoveries in the history of the Derby as he clipped heels with Bet Twice in the stretch and almost went down. Ali Sheba set himself up for a run at the crown by taking the 1987 Preakness, coming on the outside to again run down Bet Twice just before the wire. Another rivalry was building as Bet Twice had been second to Ali Sheba in the Derby by 3/4 of a length and was beaten by just a half length at the Preakness. But the Belmont was to be Bet Twice's day as he romped to a 14-length victory with Ali Sheba finishing 4th. 2 years later, in 1989, another legendary Hall of Fame trainer went for the Triple Crown sweep. Charlie Whittingham, known as the Bald Eagle. It was with this dark bay, almost black colt named Sunday Silence that Whittingham co-owned with Arthur Hancock and Dr. Ernest Gaylord. The Derby that year was a classic confrontation. Sunday Silence from the west against the supposed unbeatable power from the East, Easy Goer. Sunday Silence won by 2.5 lengths. And Whittingham, at age 76, earned his second bouquet of Derby roses. The rematch was at the Preakness, and it was a race for the ages.
In the stretch, on the outside, it's Sunday Silence. On the inside, Easy Goer. And down the stretch they come. On the outside, it's Sunday Silence. Easy Goer with Pat Day. Back to challenge. Heads apart. Easy Goer on the inside with a slight lead. On the outside, Sunday Silence. The rest of them far back. Here's the finish of the Preakness. Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. Photo finish. Noses apart.
It was Sunday Silence in a photo. But to capture the crowd, Sunday Silence had to get...
Rained all night tonight before my horse had a bruised foot, so I think that really hurt us from winning the Belmont.
There would be no Triple Crown winner in the decade of the 80s, but the classic battle, Ali Shiva versus Bet Twice in 1987, and 1989, Sunday Silence against Easy Goer came close to making up for it. Like the 80s, there would be 3 Triple Crown chances in the 1990s, with all 3 coming at the close of the decade. In 1997, and again in 1998, trainer Bob Baffert took 2 big shots at the elusive crown. First, it was Bob and Beverly Lewis's Silver Charm, who, after giving Baffert his first Kentucky Derby win, held off Freehouse on the inside, and Captain Bodgett outside to win the Preakness by a head. But at the end of the mile-and-a-half Belmont, it was Touch Gold who ended Silver Charm's Triple Crown bid by 3/4 of a length. In 1998, Baffert was back again, this time with his close friend Mike Pegram and a $17,000 bargain colt named Real Quiet. His 9-to-1 long shot victory in the Run for the Roses had most experts dismissing him as a Derby fluke. But 2 weeks later, he was even more impressive, winning the Preakness by 2 1/4 lengths. And in the test of the champion, the Belmont Stakes, it appeared Real Quiet would pass that test, widening his lead to 5 lengths in the stretch. But as the finish line drew closer, so did his main rival, #1 Victory Gallop, flying on the outside. As they hit the wire together, the photo sign went up. The race too close to call. Finally, the race was official. #11, Victory Gallop, the winner. Real Quiet had been denied the Triple Crown and the $5 million Visa bonus by the narrowest of racing margins, a nose. The drama wasn't over in the 1990s. In the final year of the decade, trainer D. Wayne Lukas would get his first chance to sweep the Classic. In the 99 Derby, Lukas sent out ex-claimer Charismatic to a stunning 31-1 upset victory. Charismatic was ridden by the confident Chris Anthony. His comeback from drug abuse was compelling in itself. In the Preakness, Charismatic again outran Derby runner-up Menifee to the wire, this time more decisively. Hall of Famer Lukas finally stood on the threshold of racing's most elusive pride. As Silver Charm did, Charismatic thrust his head in front with a 1/4 mile to run in the Belmont. But he weakened and was passed by Long Shot, Lemon Drop Kid, and Vision and Verse. Charismatic crossed the wire third. His Triple Crown hopes dashed. Just after the finish, Antley felt one of Charismatic's legs buckle. In an instinctive move that endeared him to horse lovers, the emotional Antley lifted and held Charismatic's injured leg. Charismatic had fractured his leg in the Belmont stretch. Thanks in part to Antley's compassion, he recovered to stand at the the new millennium. Trainer Bob Baffert made his 3rd Triple Crown sweep attempt in 2002 with War Emblem. The dark bay, almost black colt wasn't even in Baffert's barn until about 3 weeks before the Kentucky Derby. It was after this impressive win in the Illinois Derby that Baffert was able to purchase 90% of War Emblem for $990,000 for Saudi Arabian Prince Ahmed bin Salman's Thoroughbred Corporation. Dismissed as a 20-1 front runner in the Kentucky Derby, War Emblem was the front-running winner by 4 lengths, the first to go wire to wire to win the Roses since 1988. His opponents all vowed things would be different at Pimlico for the Preakness. He wouldn't get that easy lead this time. As it turned out, he didn't need it. War Emblem took over in the stretch from his Derby rival Proud Citizen, and then held off a late-closing Magic Wisner on the outside to win the Preakness. The dark bay son of our Emblem had now won 4 straight and almost $2.9 million, including the first 2 jewels of the crown. But the Triple Crown dreams of 2003 disappeared when the starting gate opened at the Belmont Stakes, as War Emblem stumbled badly and lost any chance.
And War Emblem is toiling as they turn for home. Medaglia d'Oro, Sunday break. Sarava has come on through to take the lead. And War Emblem has given way. No Triple Crown for the 24th year. Here comes Sarava and Medaglia d'Oro, though striding to the line together. Sarava on the outside. Medaglia d'Oro toward the rail. They're coming down to the finish. A huge upset is looming here under the line. Sarava has won the biggest long shot in the history of the Belmont Stakes at 70-1.
He would finish 8th as the odds-on favorite, 19.5 lengths behind Sarava. Now, in 2003, the spotlight has fallen on one of the year's most unlikely equine stars, the New York-bred gelding Funny Side. A $75,000 purchase by Sakatoga Stables' 10 partners of just regular guys was dismissed in the 129th Kentucky Derby at odds of almost 13-1 when he became the first New York-bred in history and the first gelding in 74 years to win the Kentucky Derby.
They're approaching the top of the stretch. Funny Side to the neck of Peace Rules. Empire Maker charging hard. A sustained rally for him on the far outside as they turn for home. Eye of the Tiger. Brancusi is spent. Domestic Dispute is in between horses. Scrimshaw is toiling. Awfully wild there on the outside. They're coming down to the final furlong. And the gutsy gelding Funny Side has a narrow lead. Bobby Frankel's Derby duo. Peace Rules to his inside. Empire Maker is giving it all. Funny Side trying to pull up the upset here. 12-1 coming down to the line. And the gutsy gelding Funny Side has won the 129th Kentucky Derby.
Victory for the little guy. Finishing behind Funny Side was the Derby favorite Empire Maker, owned by a Saudi Arabian prince, followed by Peace Rules and That's What I'm Talking About, multimillionaire Forbes 400 owners. Funny Side's 65-year-old trainer, Barclay Tagg, was making his first Triple Crown start, while jockey Jose Santos, a native of Chile, had been 0 for 6 in the Derby. A week after Funny Side's triumph came a photograph and a story in the Miami Herald newspaper questioning whether Santos was hiding some illegal device in his whip hand during the race. It caused a brief but sensational national furor until an official stewards meeting at Churchill Downs quickly dismissed any charges against Jose Santos. In the Preakness, Funny Side, the 9-5 favorite, showed the world what an honest 3-year-old runner he really is.
And Funny Side now to the throat latch of Peace Rules, and the race is on as they approach the top of the stretch here at Pimlico. The field turns for home, and Funny Side comes roaring off the turn with the lead. Funny Side has repelled Peace Rules, and it's Scrimshaw on the outside, and he's now running in third. Midway Road is fourth toward the inside. They're in the final furlong now. Funny Side and Jose Santos turning the Preakness into a runaway. A huge effort here. It is Funny Side, and he's heading home back to Belmont. He's won the Preakness by almost 10 lengths.
Funny Side is now the 30th horse to win both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, and the 5th in the past 7 years to have a chance at the elusive Triple Crown. And Funny Side could become just the second gelding to ever win the Belmont Stakes, joining 1985 winner Creme Fraiche. Geldings had not been allowed to run in the Belmont from 1918 until 1957. Adding the winner's share of the Belmont's $1 million purse, plus the $5 million Visa Triple Crown bonus, would jump Funny Side to the top of the list of money-winning geldings, past the legendary John Henry's total of over $6.5 million. When Secretariat swept the 3 jewels in 1973, it ended a period of 25 years between Triple Crown winners. longest drought in history. Now again, it has been 25 years since the 11th and last Triple Crown winner affirmed in 1978, a quarter of a century. And with Seattle Slew's death last year, there are now no living Triple Crown winners alive. Will Funny Side be able to change all that? We'll find out in New York Saturday at the 135th Belmont Stakes, the mile-and-a-half test of the champion at Belmont Park on Long Island. Join ESPN live Saturday, June 7th for our 2-hour Belmont Stakes special, beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, as New York's Funny Side makes his bid to become Thoroughbred Racing's 12th Triple Crown winner.